we're gonna get out of it, right?
A couple of years ago, I made a video on this channel called My Plan to Quit Streaming. And in that video, I talked about how I started a company called Offbrand with the idea of making events for not just myself, but other creators. And that company was mostly made up of former Beyond the Summit employees. Unfortunately, yesterday we had to announce that we are closing down the production side of Offbrand. We released a statement
Why?
that I'm going to read verbatim because it's pretty well written. When we started Offbrand, our plan was to help creators bring their ideas to life. For many creators, we did that, and we're proud of everything we helped create. Our people worked hard, and we made amazing.
So I guess I'm just guessing here, right? If I'm wrong, you can just let me down in the comments section. But Offbrand is his, like, I guess, talent agency, if that makes sense, right?
Content, but we failed to make the events business sustainable. And as a result, we made the difficult decision to shut down that side of the business. Offbrand Games isn't going anywhere, and I'm going to keep making events through Mogul Moves. But we want to thank everyone who supported and watched the events we helped produce. If you're looking for talented folks in production, please check out. We have a sheet that has a lot of the people listed. I've already had a lot of people personally reach out interested. So if you're hiring, reach out fast. I would love if you did that. Now, this video is absolutely not to garner sympathy in any way, shape, or form, but it is more so to answer questions about how we got to this point, and then some just general like misinformation I've seen, to respond all of it in a one-stop shop, as opposed to talking about it on stream every day. Now, the first thing I see a lot of people talk about is somehow connecting this to the structure of the company and it being a co-op. The most annoying people in the world are going to blame this on Ludwig turning Offbrand into a workers' co-op. I've seen a lot more people worried about these type of people than those type of people actually existing. But I mean, simply put,
hold on. What was even like Offbrand? Now that you're making me interested, right? Place. Because I have no idea about this. Like, so let's do a deep dive in this, right? Oh, okay. So Offbrand was not about content creators. It is about video games. Okay, so this is like OTK, video game stuff. You know, Asmongold's a video game publishing company. So this is like a publishing company, right? Okay, got it. So this is like a publishing company that like that like publishes games, and then they go to them and they publish games, and they only have like just one. Okay, got it. So he had like a publishing company, it didn't really work out, and he's not getting rid of it. Right. Okay, got it.
Irrelevant to the structure of the business. The structure of the business, in fact, is also still in place, right? Offbrand Games is still a co-op, and it would only ever change if all the employees wanted to change that. But the real issue was the business model. Now, the business model wasn't working, wasn't making money. And the main difference, if you have like a traditional S corporation as opposed to a worker co-op, is it's easier to get outside investment. But I don't think outside investment would help a failing business model. And we know that because it happens all the time. Like esports, they have a bunch of outside investment, but when that VC money dries up, it shows that the underlying business model isn't working and they have to change their business model.
Right, that's true. That's true if you think about it, especially when you take a look at like FaZe Clan and what happened with them. I mean, it was kind of a different situation, but like still that was like quite insane thing to happen when you like really think about it. Like FaZe Clan just like got bought back by the original guy, and then oof. Even like controversies are still happening to this day. But yeah, I mean, look, even like as somebody coming from the gaming industry, like there's a lot of stuff like this where it's like, if you like really think about it, you have like indie game companies who are like trying to make video games, and I would know, they're like looking for like investments and stuff, and once you get that investment, then when you try to make a video game, I mean, we had this happen so many times in the industry, and we saw so many times like they like make video games, they try to sell it, once it doesn't work, and once the investment runs dry, like there needs to be a spark somewhere where you're able to sell a product, enough product to actually get the damn thing going, and try to cut your ties to your publisher or whatever to actually become a self-sustaining your own company. Otherwise it's just gonna collapse, right? So that's like kryptonite of like indie game developers, I guess, because if you make a game and if you get development money and, you know, publishing money and marketing and whatever, and then like it doesn't actually work out and the game is actually not successful, then like then you're in a lot of debt, right? And also the investor themselves are also taking a lot of debt themselves. They're taking a lot of chance with you, right? So they need to make sure that like whatever game that you're publishing is actually going to be really, really successful, and it's going to be able to cover and actually going to bring in a profit.
We did that without the outside investment. And of course, outside investment can help, like with an initial runway.
Yeah.
You know, most businesses don't make money.
Definitely does.
But instead of finding that money from the outside, I personally invested. I used my own money. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The next thing I see being asked a lot, God, that sucks, but they got to do what they got to do. They put on amazing stuff. I wonder what Germa's going to be up to. A lot of people are curious what Germa's going to be up to. And Germa's talked a bit about this.
Apparently, Germa was also in this thing. I had no idea, right? I'm not really well versed in the Ludwig law, if that makes sense.
On a stream, but about 6 months ago, I think, maybe a little more, Germa stepped back from Offbrand Productions to just deal with some stuff in his personal life. He was an irreplaceable part of Offbrand. Like
right, I mean, makes sense, right? Like you have like a thing that's going on, it's not really working out, so you know you need to take some time off to collect your thoughts, I guess. That makes sense.
Adds a creativity that I think is one-on-one. I don't think I've ever seen it in another human. You don't get Doug Shovelthon without the mind of Jeremy. You don't get like Unpaid Intern without the mind of Jeremy. He's a super talented guy. But as far as like, you know, does this mean he's a full-time streamer or whatever? That is for Jeremy to speak to. But it shouldn't functionally change how his life was operating in the coming 6 months based off like the past 6 months when he initially stepped back to like have some more time for himself. Hope that makes sense. Next thing I'm seeing a bit of, is this because the YouTube contract is over? Kind of the same answer as the worker co-op versus the S Corp. The YouTube contract allowed me to have a lot more money to like invest in places, right?
Right, that makes sense.
In various things, whatever. So I don't have a big sum of money to, you know, keep it rolling for a year, 2 years, whatever. But even if I did, you know, whenever that money runs out,
my teeth, it hurts. I brushed my teeth. No, I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't brush my teeth.
That shit. Ow.
Again, underlying business model was not making money. So let's talk about why it wasn't making money. Now, a lot of people are like hypothesizing that it's because events don't make money. But that's not actually true, right? They don't necessarily sometimes make money for me as the creator directly. You know, if I spend like, I guess a good example, $1.5 million on chess boxing, but I only personally make $1.25 million back, you might think of that as a $250,000 loss for me. And like, oh, why is Loading running events? That's bad for him. But you can, or at least I can, maybe safely assume that, hey, I might make $250,000 of extra value as a creator because I have grown as a result of doing this event. Right? This is the biggest event I've ever done. It has the most eyeballs. And over the course of the next 5 years, that $250,000 will come back through like the extra growth.
That makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. Most people don't really think about these. They think like events don't really make you money. There's a lot of money to be made in events, and he was also right here, because if you think about it, like it's like, oh, okay, I lost this much amount of money, so it's a failure. Not entirely, because if you make and create a large event that's like known worldwide, then you're just gonna get more eyeballs on yourself. So just like he said, in the long term, this is essentially long-term plan, right? It's like it's not a short-term stuff. It's a long-term. You're biding your time. You're like investing in the future to get a return on investment. So it actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because a lot of more eyes on you means a lot of more money for you in the long term, right? In the mid to long term, if that makes sense.
That created. So I don't mind that loss. And the production company doesn't have that loss, right? They are a production company that itemizes the amount of costs that they had to bear, including employee time, and then covers that cost sometimes with like, you know, an additional like service fee. So they are not losing money. In fact, those are the best months is when there are huge events like Streamer Awards or you know, a HS Boxing. The issue isn't the event.
Right, Streamer Awards. That's also a big one.
It is the time.
And that's why the controversy with the FaZe clan comes up. Last one that I mentioned like a couple of minutes ago, where like apparently there was this woman. Don't exactly remember who she was. Apparently, she was an actor. I don't really know the details. Apparently, she got admitted into Face Clan and like got chosen for a award or something. And then like every single other member of the Face Clan started like roasting her and flaming her on the Twitter. And she was like, "Okay, I'm done with this." And she just like left the clan and they just like disabled her Twitter account or something. Really, really effed up stuff. Just putting that out there, right?
Between events. So if we had a streamer games, a streamer awards, a Sea Dog charity auction every single month, or even 2 a month, that's what the team is capable of handling and would also need to handle to be able to sustain itself. So the issue was less that events don't make money, but more so that the appetite from creators for events of that scale at the cadence it would need to be would not allow people to be employed full time. It only really makes sense for like contract work. And you can kind of see that the appetite isn't there if you just look at the biggest streamers in the world over the past year on Twitch. This is like the top 15 creators on Twitch. And you can see here, nobody except for Kai on this list is doing big events. I guess Tarek is doing Ludwig Tarek 3 and
I mean, Kai Cenat is a prime example here if you really think about it. Kai Cenat is the one who just keep putting out events after event after event after event. Like the New York event, all the other stuff. Not just Kai. If you really think about it, Speed is also another one who just like event after event after event after event. He just like, I mean, these people are just like going crazy on those events. And when I say event, I mean like IRL stuff. It's like just going outside, meeting with fans, a large crowd, going around, right? There was this one time a couple of months ago, this year, 2024 especially, where I Show Speed would just go around the world and just like meet fans. And there were like all of these like gigantic swath of like just crowd of people just like trying to meet him, and they were like throwing dead rats at him, right? Those are like huge stuff, right? So I guess if you really think about it, Kai Cenat and I Show Speed are really the only ones, especially speaking, right? Especially this year and last year too, but this year even more than previous years. They're like the essentially like forerunners for anything when it comes to IRL stuff, going outside and like creating and holding and doing all of these events, right? If you like really think about it, they're the ones who are like doing all of this stuff.
A few other things to his credit, and Hassan did that show with Twitch, but for the most part, most of these people are just in their bedroom every day, and their costs are like what it costs to keep the lights on and have internet running through their computer. That's about it. There are very few creators who are interested in, spending $250,000, $500,000 to do some random cool shit that at least, some big event or whatever. They'd rather do it from home. And who can blame them? I think they're doing that because that's a reflection of what the audience wants as well. All right. If you look at the best streamed event nominees for 2024, it's a lot different than it was.
C-Dog. Okay, so that's C-Dog. We got RDC Gaming. That will make sense, right? Shout out to RDC World. They're the ones who are like just going around just playing video games on their streams. Entire Boy, right? The group. Love them. C-Dog, right? They have Cyclothon. Right. That would make sense. I mean, it would make sense that these are like the best streams events, right? Right.
A few years ago, it doesn't mean it's worse. It's just different. Like the road trip to TwitchCon, that was a fucking banger stream. But the reality is NMP set up all the tech for that. And it's like feeling like you are a part of this road trip with these people with maximum chat interaction, as opposed to something like Streamer Games, which is like, kind of like a fun knockoff Olympics with a bunch of creators, but you don't get that interaction that I think a lot of people vie for when they're watching streams. And so I think there's like a general shift that creators are doing that is a reflection of their audience's appetite. Now, we were able to make a lot of cool shit happen in the 2 years that we existed, starting from Mogul Money Live, which is kind of like the first event that then started the snowball of Offbrand. And we did Juice, Chess Boxing, Germa's Christmas Special, like 3 Ludwig Tarek's, Pog Champs. But you'll notice a lot of these are just my events. That's just the fact. A lot of them are my events. And I, unfortunately, although I wish I could be, am not a big enough creator to be able to sustain all of those full-time employees. I'm just not.
I mean,
I tried, man. I try to do.
I mean, look, if you think about it really, Ludwig is a huge creator, right? One of the biggest creators on the platform, one of the biggest creators everywhere, right? All around the world, right? A lot of people know him, right? He's very famous. He's a big creator. He's rich, whatever. But it's very, very interesting if you think about it, that even he is like, okay, even though that I'm this big, I'm not capable of actually having all of these employees and doing all of these events and making it sustainable, right? It's really, really interesting. Like, how much more bigger can you be to actually sustain all of that, right? Probably Kai Cenat big, if you really, really think about it. Interesting. It's very, very interesting that even Ludwig is like, yo, I'm rich, I'm big, I'm huge, but even I am struggling, right? It's something to think about, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, they're all millionaires and whatever, and yeah, sure, they're all millionaires, they're all millionaires, it's whatever, but when you think about it, it doesn't really work that way, because the amount of money that you have to actually spend on these events to actually get them going, to actually make them sustainable, it requires so much more, right? Something to think about, something to chew on.
Every big event I possibly could, and every cool thing. I worked as hard as I ever have this past year, but like maybe only Kai is big enough to be able to do that, and has the appetite to also do that. And we didn't have enough outside streamers to be able to fill all those gaps between the large events that we did do. All right, I hope that makes sense. That's the general issue. Now, again, Offbrand Games isn't going anywhere. Okay, Offbrand Games is going amazing, honestly. Like, Rivals of Ether 2 has been a blast to publish and promote and like play. Although at times it's been sad because I dropped down to silver. But I enjoy it a lot. And that part of the business, we are going to keep going. All right.
Okay, so if let me know if I'm getting this right. Okay, so there's something called Off-Brand Games. There are two sides of it. One of them is event side, where IRL, he's like holding like real life events, and that's costing like a lot of money. And then on the other side, you got like actual like video games as a publishing company. So they're like two sides of the, essentially like the brand itself, right? The company, so they're like two different sides, and one side is closing down, the IRL side, and the other side is just still going strong, right? Which would make sense, right? Video games is much more different ball game than, I mean, real life events, I mean, are like so much more different ball game than the actual video game stuff and whatnot. So it would make sense that keeping the video game stuff still going, like, it makes sense, right? Because it's so much more easier to fund, it's so much more easier to organize, because it's all online, it's all on digital, right? It's not IRL, it's probably not costing as much as IRL. It will make sense to actually keep the digital video game side of the business itself, right? If you like really, really think about it.
A lot of people still on that team. It's just the production side, which is changing. So for me personally, it's going to be switching to more contract work, and also switching, I think, the style of events that I do. For example, I did 2 events in the past month. One is World's Greatest Gamer, where I got all the greatest gamers in the world. I flew them out. They drove out 20 people, put them up in hotels. It was a 2-day event, streamed it, and Void eventually won. It was sick. That peaked at about 30,000 viewers.
Ooh.
It was a lot of fun to do. The other event I did was League Week. It was in this exact room. We had a pretty cool set. Me and Connor played League for 100 hours straight.
Damn.
I won as many games as I lost, and we peaked at like 38,000 viewers.
That's
on
crazy.
Just my stream, I think 50 across both streams, which is crazy, right? It's crazy because the cost of League Week is 20 times lower, but I think reflects what audiences want, which is like maximum engagement with their streamer. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing events, because I still really like doing things like streamer games. You know, for me, that's like fucking winter vacation when you're in school. It's like, that's the
Right.
shit that I do look forward to doing.
Right.
So still want to do things like streamer games. We'll still try to do that next year.
And it's crazy to think about that. Like, he's doing all of these things, all of these events, but then you get like Kai Cenat. No hate to Kai Cenat. I love him. I watch him. and then he's just in his room with a couple of other dudes, and they're getting like what? Last time that I was like checking, I guess he had hit like I guess Kai Cenat. You can just let me know in the comment section. But from what I'm remembering, Kai Cenat hit like some record viewership of like 200,000 concurrent like viewers or something, which is crazy, right? Like when you compare it, you get all of this event, all of this money put in, not getting as much as many views, but then you got this, and it's not as much money put in that compared to it, and then it's just viewership just blowing out of it of water, right? It's crazy.
Other events have already switched to being done by contractors. If you have a keen eye, you might have noticed the most recent Ludwig Tarek wasn't produced by Offbrand. Neither was the LACS Rivals event. That was also not produced by Offbrand. There were some Offbrand employees working on it, but those events are still going to happen. This doesn't mean that like, no, I'm not doing any more Smash events or any more. That's not at all what this means. And at some point, I might talk a little bit more about how this happened so suddenly, but it's because the cost mounted quite quickly. All right, simply put. It got to a basically unsustainable point. And I've seen some people give shit for like the timing of this, right? Like before the holidays, whatever, which is fair criticism. We are doing like a good severance package. We are paying people out for the next 2 months.
So essentially, it was at some point was so expensive to get these events out rolling. He was like, okay, let's outsource these. Let's not actually spend this much money on them. They're still gonna happen, right? We were downsizing and not as many events as possible, which will make sense. And then here he's also mentioning how he's gonna give severance packages to people who are like working there, and he's like how at the beginning of the video he was talking about how people should reach out to him to hire all of these employees. They're gonna be let go. Because that side of the company, that part of the company is just dissolving anyway, which would make sense, right? I mean, this is like really, really kind-hearted stuff to do, right? This is the right thing to do as a boss, right? If a part of your business is failing and you have to downsize, then it's good to let other people know around the world on the internet or in your industry, hey, these people are now available to be hired by anyone. Just reach out to me and let us know. That's good. That's like the best practice to be done by a boss, right? It's the right thing to do, if that makes sense.
But the reality is if we were to have kept this business going until March, I would not only have enough money. I would not only not have enough money to keep Offbrand going, but I'd also have to shut down Mogul Moves at that point. It was beginning to impact both businesses,
right?
With just the burden of costs of
right.
the production side, if that makes sense. So it's something we had to act quickly on. And if we were to delay breaking the news to the employees, maybe you could announce this after the holiday break and sit on it, then they would just have less time to find work. So obviously the timing is not ideal, but we did it and we acted the moment we found out the information that, hey, by March, if we don't do something, everything is going to shit.
Right. That makes sense. Well,